There's one number that people should be paying attention to in the markets right now, and it is not getting enough press. People are focusing on what's happening with AI CapEx spending, what's happening with oil prices in this environment, but the reality is we should be watching what S&P Global is telling us around current hiring trends in the global economy. Right now, we are witnessing the worst hiring spree since the pandemic, and in fact, we haven't seen numbers like this in decades. This is all happening while inflation continues to rise, and questions are abound as we move toward key jobs reports and meetings among central banks in the weeks and months ahead. My name's Garrett Baldwin. I am the editor of Me and the Money Printer on Substack, and today we're going to break down that distress that we are witnessing in the jobs market as we continue to see inflation play out. And the reason that we're doing this is something that we are calling the last domino. And the last domino is, of course, the jobs situation. The trick is the headline is playing something big on you right now. The global growth number looks fine. The global composite PMI held at 51.8, according to S&P Global. But there is a little bit of a problem with some of the numbers the further we dig into this. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about right now. Underneath that calm headline, the hiring component fell to its weakest since July 2020. That is the depth of the pandemic. And as we know, when it comes to major financial events like 2008 or 2020, there is a lag, typically 3 months, and that is exactly what we are witnessing right now. That was the depth of the pandemic in July 2020, and it's falling sharply. We are now 3 months out past the beginning of this war, and this is not just one weak country that we're seeing these numbers hit. 14 of the 21 global sectors cut jobs in May. That is the most in nearly 2.5 years. The report's authors have noted that future output and employment are falling sharply, with hiring at its lowest since that period right after the pandemic. So the headline stays calm, but the details say something cracked. And if we look at this, the last 3 times we were in this environment is 2001, 2008, and 2020. And I want to stress this because that's what separates a blip from a signal. Hiring the weakest since the pandemic, and you look back through comparisons to Post.com, Post-GCF, and it's not just here in the U.S. This is happening in Europe, it's happening in the U.K., and it's largely happening being led by services, which is the bigger share of every modern economy. So yes, the index is a noisy month-to-month tractor, and I'll give the bulls that. But if you ignore the 1 month drop entirely, hiring is stuck near stall speed. This is not a soft patch. This is a straight up freeze. And AI is also playing a component in that element. Now, why does all of this matter? It matters because this is how you turn a slowdown into a trap. When hiring falls, costs are also accelerating at the same time. So input inflation just hit its fastest pace in 3.5 years and the hottest since November 2022. Now, remember, we had a war in 2022, but we also had tightening of the central bank at the exact same time. The ISM Prices Index hit 84.6, the highest since April 2022, again corresponding with the Ukraine war. And every one of the 21 global sectors reported sharp cost hikes. So companies are getting squeezed from both sides. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to shift your operations. And the deeper fear is that the one that keeps central bankers up at night is that the one-off oil shock stops being one-off and starts getting embedded in the broad inflation basket, where it gets sticky and sometimes can remain permanent. That combination has a name, and it is called stagflation, okay? On the growth side, hiring is the weakest since 2020. The business optimism is near its lowest since basically COVID. And on the price side, output charges are climbing, and the oil shock is spilling into the core of inflation numbers. This is the single hardest setup that a central bank could ever face because the two halves demand opposite medicine. There is no lever that fixes both of these situations. Now, if we assess why hiring froze, some of the numbers that are out there will be pretty simplistic. Two-thirds of CEOs say they plan to freeze or cut hiring, and many of them are betting that AI absorbs the work. Entry-level job postings are getting crushed. We've known this. We've looked through this data, and we've assessed that 30% of entry-level jobs are now down since 2022, and that coincides with the launch of ChatGPT in November of that year. Middle management postings are now down 42%, so hiring has slowed to levels we haven't seen since 2010, when unemployment was near 10%. And why does that matter? Because the only reason the unemployment rate is still just 4.3% is that nobody is hiring yet. Now, one of the other things that I do want to note is that there is this last domino that needs to be assessed in the ongoing state of affairs. If we look at what is happening right now, the one that falls near the end in terms of dominoes is you got to follow the basic logic. So the first thing to pay attention to is the no-fire freeze. That becomes the dam. It holds unemployment rates down. It's the only thing that's effectively doing so. And then two, that dam only holds while CEOs feel safe. Confidence is the wall. Then three, when firms finally do cut, history says they cut fast, all at once to retool. And then fourth, that means the labor market breaks last, and when it breaks, it becomes nonlinear, and it doesn't ease lower, it snaps lower. So we could be looking at some pretty pronounced shifts in our labor numbers over the next 2 to 3 months. Now, the trap this hands basically is going to absolutely put Kevin Warsh in a very difficult position. Hiring is stalling, which says you should be cutting rates, but prices are reaccelerating, which means they should be hiking. And a central bank can't fight both at once. You either cut and you pour fuel on the inflation, or you hike and you snap the hiring freeze into the recession everybody's been dodging. Kevin Warsh inherits exactly this at his first meeting on June 17th, and there is no clean move on the board. Now, I will tell you that historically the academics who are on the side of labor would be advocating to ensure that the labor market is secure. Doesn't mean that they would necessarily cut, but it would also mean that they would aim to stay in pat and do whatever they can in order to prevent more job losses in the economy. If this sounds familiar, well, just think about who she is, and you can go from there. Her name shall not be mentioned on this broadcast. All right, as we move through this, there is a playbook, and it comes back to the 1970s. The setup's rare, but it's not new. And what worked then was commodities and energy, gold and real assets, value over growth, and inflation-protected bonds. And in that decade, commodities returned nearly 600%, and gold went from $35 to about $850. What lost was long-duration bonds. The classic 60-40 portfolio, expensive growth stocks got beaten up, and cash was very clean, right, every single year as a position. This is not a crash call. It is a regime signal and effectively kind of a grind. The crowd always sells the bottom in index funds and panics. Respect the regime before the data forces you to. And remember, this is not investment advice. Speak to your broker. But here's the thing. The last domino is wobbling. Hiring is at its weakest since the pandemic. Prices are accelerating right into it. And again, the public is now describing the same thing from two directions: weak growth and sticky inflation. So the word is stagflation, even when nobody wants to print it. Now, that's the big story on the surface. Here are the 5 cracks sitting underneath the record highs, and we'll dive into 1 minute each. First off, the AI machine is largely paying for itself, and while everybody's cheering it, there's a giant hole in it. Those hyperscalers are supposed to be going somewhere between $700 to $800 billion, and now we're starting to see the possibility that these numbers might be an exaggeration. Maybe the real revenue is somewhere in the 80% to 85%, just $140, $150 billion. And everything else is just circular logic. This is one of the major things. When we get into an environment where a company like Broadcom misses, what happens is that people actually start to look at the math again. This stops becoming a mechanical flow up trade, and instead it evolves into a deeper discussion about fundamentals and where is the money coming from? Where is that CapEx spend going, and who is benefiting, and more importantly, why? It matters because if we're spending $800 billion, but the real productivity out of it's only $200 billion, well, It questions the guidance of everybody else moving forward. The next thing to note is that oil is the engine. If you understand one thing about this market, make it oil right now. Close to a fifth of the world's oil moves are in the Strait of Hormuz, and it's effectively shut. U.S. crude inventories just hit their lowest since 2004, which is telling us right now that the producers are not taking the bait. They are not drilling just to drill, even in the face of higher oil prices. There is no relief. So once again, everybody will be talking about the possibility of more production. The barrels are draining and the supply remains constrained. Oil drives inflation, rates, and stocks all at once. And we're in this environment now where there's a ceasefire in the morning and then a drone strike at night. The noise is daily. The trend is one direction, though, and that is tighter. So you have to have conviction and look at names like Devon and APA as opportunities. Meanwhile, the world is tightening. This is not just the Federal Reserve and the expectations of a rate hike by December at 81%. This is now the ECB set to raise rates next week. 90% chance that the Bank of Japan raises interest rates in June. We were looking at July. This is the first major, big possible move in a generation that we see in terms of trying to address its real inflationary pressures. That's that move back to 1%. That is what matters. That is that first move in the generation. Every major central bank is pulling liquidity at the same movement, and they're all responding to the same oil shock. Now, why does that matter? It's pretty simple. Liquidity is the tide of the market, and everything is pulling it out at once, right? As global markets sit at all-time highs, and there's a lot of focus and speculation around what's going to happen with SpaceX and Anthropic with their IPOs. Tomorrow's jobs report is the trigger that could accelerate this whole thing. This is all coming on the back of the sharpest rally that we've seen in some time. 16% moves in 2 months. We've only seen that happen 4 times since 1945. 2 times it came out of, or forgive me, 3 times that came out of recession. The one exception with no recession, like today, all-time highs, 1987. And it fell by a third in just weeks. Keep an eye on our momentum signals. If this starts to break down, you want to make sure that you are well positioned. You should be analyzing right now, what are the stocks I own and why? And if you don't have a good answer for that, take the gains, please. It matters because we have 2 markers that are flashing at the same time. Tightening and, of course, that giant IPO wave, SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic. That exact combination ended the dot-com mania as well. Remember the last part, every major hedge is broken right now. The assets you buy for protection are falling when you need them most. Bitcoin, the so-called digital gold hedge, just hit a 3-month low. And MicroStrategy, aka Strategy, is now selling Bitcoin for the first time since 2022. Gold is still below its pre-war level. We have a war, an oil spike, and inflation roaring back. Those safe havens let owners down in the exact crisis that we were told they were built for. And all of this matters because gold isn't weak because demand died. Central banks in oil importing countries are being forced to sell their gold to raise dollars they need to pay for rising oil prices. With that forced selling trades, the de-dollarization trend could flip gold sharply higher. So once again, pick your line in the sand. For me, it's $42.50 for gold and $68 for silver. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. We are here on YouTube. We are also on Substack. Me and the Money Printer is our publication. We also have postcards from the edge of the world and the Insider Buying Report. As always, I am Garrett Baldwin, your fearless leader. I hope everybody has a great trading day, and as always, stay positive.